Hey everybody, Goosebumps for Dummies here, back at it again with another video, and today, rounding off my comic review of Fawn, we have our final comic book related review for probably a month. I'm planning to dive back into these eventually, but for our review of Fawn, we're ending it off with, well, here it is. Little Comic Shop of Horrors, the 17th GYG in the GYG series, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, indeed. I have a good memory. This book has quite a fan base. A lot of people think this is one of the greatest GYGs ever. Michael Goosens fan praised it. He even put it at the top of his GYG rankings, so that's already a hell of a status, and a lot of people just really like this book. But how do I feel about it? Let's find out. And now for my blurb. Laugh at your own risk. You're walking through a creepy part of town when you find a new comic shop, Milo's Comics Dungeon. Dungeon is right. The place is dusty, dingy, and really dark. You can see the comics are awesome, but there's something you can't see. Trouble. It's waiting for you. If you choose to go downstairs, watch out for Milo the Mutant. He's got big, bad plans for you. What? You say you'd rather stay upstairs? Not such a great idea, unless you want to battle the worst villains in the history of comics. Do you have what it takes to be a superhero? I don't know, I'm fat. The choice is yours in this scary Goosebumps adventure that's packed with over 20 super spooky endings! For all my nerds out there. Yes, comics. I know. I'm not a fan of them. And I was expecting to be pleasantly surprised this book, and, well, it wasn't really surprising. I pleasantly actually enjoyed this one. But there are aspects that actually revolve around comics that I didn't like. I'm not kidding. This is one of the rare Goosebumps instances where it has failed to kind of impress me in some regards. But overall, I don't want to, say the book's bad at all. It's actually quite good, and one of the better Mark Nagata cover GYGs. Well, it's not tough competition, because most of the best GYGs so far have been Mark Nagata's, so yeah. Let's get to my upsides. This book had a lot of good endings. This is a slightly rare thing I give out for GYGs, but really, the ratio of good endings, bad endings is like every ending to 0, so. And every ending is good, so we're at least, decent, which is nice. And a lot of them are really good. There's a lot of standout endings, especially in the downstairs arc, or the backrooms arc, as I'm going to call it. Yeah, we're getting into that now. The backrooms arc. The downstairs arc. I never thought, looking at this book in the past before I read it on January 9th, I still know the date, that this would be a backrooms copycat for one of the arcs. And, well, whoop-de-doo, it was. But the backrooms, of course, did not exist until 2019, I believe, after a 4chan post. But yeah, it's very similar. I'm going to quickly just describe it. Plywood maze, after sliding into it, with dark, dingy areas. It seems to be weirdly created and formatted, so basically like randomly generated-esque, with no clear exit, and kids have been trapped down there for months, so it's almost inescapable. Also, there's monsters, but they're not black, spore monsters, mold. They're actually, universal monsters, and the comic shop owner, I think, technically Milo the Mutant, I can't quite remember, yeah, it's literally the backrooms. Not, to a T, but I don't want to glaze it just because it's like backrooms. I just found that really interesting that Goosebumps, twice now, has basically made the backrooms. 2 times. 2 times. And this one definitely wasn't even written by Stine. This is pretty... I feel like this was a ghost-written one. I feel like every GYG was ghost-written except maybe Carnival of Horrors. Because there's an obvious shift between that book and TikTok You're Dead. But, getting off topic, great arc. Not just because it's backrooms, because it is genuinely a good arc. I think there are some great scary moments and bits. There's a nice cameo of a very familiar Goosebumps villain from a very familiar 33rd book in a very familiar series. Yeah. It's quite cool. There's a lot of other monsters and sequences. There's some good endings, and there's some nice cheesy bits down there that I think are funny. Yeah, as dark as the path it is, and like I said, it's dark. It's one of those things that's like, I'm almost pushing the boundaries of kids' horror, but not enough to me, for me to love it. I don't like gore, insane gore in kids' horror besides Keith. It's one exception. I think that is well done, because it's like, just vague enough. This is just dark on a literal standpoint. These kids have been down here for months, starving and trying to find their way out. depending on the path you choose, because sometimes they might be monsters type shit, you know. But yeah, pretty dark, but pretty cool, you know, and silly, because there's some silly happenings down there, and a lot of dark endings still. But yeah, overall, great endings in this book, a great downstairs arc. I think the intro to this book is also really good. It's one of the most solid GYG intros I've ever read, and that on its own is like a solid setup for a story about comic geek, sort of, finds a comic shop, founds a rare comic, but he has to go through trial and error to even get out of that comic shop alive, maybe with his earnings of that rare comic he found. Or he gets sucked in that rare comic, of course. Whatever path they would go down to make this like a genuine story, not a GYG. Either way, really cool. And the other arc also has good moments, I feel, and some funny bits. Specifically funny bits. It's not a very scary arc. It's superhero nonsense. Yeah, both arcs have their own respectively good things. I clearly favor the downstairs arc, the backrooms arc as I call it. And yeah, overall, this was a really solid story with a lot of good endings. Some standouts, of course, specifically in the downstairs arc. But I have some issues with it. So, the superhero arc. Ugh, I can just play wet fart noises on a loudspeaker. Now, honestly, it's not bad. But overall, there's something that really deteriorates what potential score I'd give it on its own, which would probably be like a 4 out of 10, not 5. That's too good. Cringe. Cringe, if you want to call it the weird way. Cringe. I don't fucking know. It's cringe. The superhero arc suffers what I absolutely hate about comics. Now, I think I said this before in this video. I don't like comics. And Goosebumps somehow makes them good for me. This is not that case, though. This is exactly why I avoid superhero movies and DC, Marvel, anything of that sort. It's an immediate turnoff when it involves superheroes, and this is precisely why. It's extremely cringe. The whole superhero arc has a lot of cringe bits, and whilst there's things I like there's this little segment involving you fighting a superhero, only it's a staged fight, so you know how it ends up, and you're actually chill with the dude. You're just fake fighting for a comic. Which goes in a lot of cool directions. That little arc in there was really cool. Most of the other stuff was just poo-poo. And I was actually also very uninterested in it, thanks to that. It was absolutely not my cup of tea, with a lot of the cringe segments in here. But I still didn't hate it, just didn't find it very interesting thanks to that as well. I found myself not really paying much attention, and then of course I had to have to reread the page, like, fuck. Okay, this is what's happening, you know, that type of shit. I'm a mildly brain rot person, okay? But that's because this book was not fucking entertaining in that segment. It was just reading blah garbage, it felt. And I'm honest, you know, I think I get why people like this. There's a lot of comic fans who said, this is a great book, but I'm not a comic fan, I'm being honest with you. My personal score is not going to be a 10 out of 10 like a lot of people give it, but it's still going to be relatively in that range. It's going to be above an 8, so I'll give you that much. I just really like this book, but that's really all I have to say about negatives. Oh, almost forgot. Wally. There's a really pointless inclusion of a character named Wally who shows up literally for exposition dump, and that is it. He introduces the mechanic of how to travel between comics when you're in the comic world. Because yeah, the superhero arc is you travel the comic world. There's good endings in it. There's funny moments, like I said, of the whole bit where you're fake fighting. But overall, not a big fan of it. You know, it's not my thing. So yeah, let's get to my rating. I give this this book about comics, an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's really good. You know, there's good stuff. The backrooms or underground basement arc is great. I think it has a great exposition. I think there's great endings and just a lot of funny moments and scary bits. And it's overall a really entertaining GYG for half the book, or a bit more, because obviously not the entire superhero arc is dog shit, but it's overall a pretty rough arc. Like I said, 8.5 out of 10. I still recommend this, especially if you're a comic fan, but if not, you're still going to have a good time with it overall. And yeah, it's good. Very good. Check it out. Hope you guys enjoyed this book review, and tell me what you think about this Goosebumps book, not comic book, below. I almost forget what it's called at the time. Little Comic Shop of Horrors. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.